Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hillary. Tamar Ravelli is an international recruitment consultant at Talingual, based in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Tamar's focused on multilingual recruitment in Europe, so she is the ideal person to give an update on how BPO recruitment is recovering after the pandemic. Okay, let's go straight to the interview with Tamar Ravelli. Okay, Tamar, thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's great to speak to you again. I think it's been quite a while since I spoke to you, probably before the pandemic. So why don't we start off with a broad overview? How has the whole COVID pandemic affected BPO recruitment generally then?
Well, I suppose there were very few big changes. We had to work from home. This is, of course, now more widespread, and it was really unimaginable before COVID. You know, looking at our clients across Europe, work from home usually means being in the same country as the employer. So, for instance, if a work from home role is available with one of our clients in Barcelona, it means work from home anywhere in Spain. So we see a huge increase in flexibility that didn't exist before. And another big change is the increased digitalization that happened due to lockdown. This has created new increased demand in BPO roles. For instance, increased online shopping means more customer support roles, but also the explosive increase in online gaming has meant more support was needed in that industry, not only in customer support roles, but also the actual service itself. Moved from physical to online. So instead of having a croupier playing blackjack in the middle of the city of Amsterdam, they would now be based in a multilingual production studio in the likes of Malta and working alongside croupiers for markets across the world. I think overall, from a recruitment point of view, BPO is a very active market. It's a very growing market. You can clearly see this from the growing headcount of the major players as they have been increasing the numbers of agents throughout the pandemic.
Okay, so you mentioned work from home has changed recruitment slightly there. So because we're seeing probably the maintenance of a lot of hybrid work, so some return to the contact center and some agents staying work from home, does that mean that a lot of companies are hiring nationally now and they no longer need to hire near to their office?
Mm-hmm. I suppose the flexibility for work locations has become a factor that some providers make more use of than others. We have, for instance, a client in Bulgaria that offers permanent work from home anywhere in Bulgaria, while, for instance, in Portugal, agents would still only temporarily work from home and must be in or near the city where the main office is located. So often BPO jobs are not offered and advertised as permanent work from home roles yet. Now we see some change in this, but the majority of BPOs, I suppose, driven by their clients, still hope to have, big part of their workforce back in the office after the pandemic. Well, I suppose that's the current planning assumption anyway.
Okay. And how does that affect the multilingual hubs? Because, across Europe, many of the BPOs cluster together people using many different languages in one center. And because of the work from home being a proven business model, I've seen many people now saying, well, multilingual hubs are dead because if I need 10 Swedish speakers, I'll just get them work from home in Sweden, even if I'm not based in Sweden, So is that true? Or are we going to see, again, a sort of hybrid multilingual hub model?
I think, the hubs remain strong, but they're less defined, as a building or a set of building because of the work from home trend. So in some countries, you see maybe a shift from multilingual hubs being, they were always city specific. There may be more country specific. So this opens up more opportunities outside the city. What you mentioned there about, Swedes working from Sweden, I think this is still the complicated part that a lot of multilingual hubs, find it, even working countrywide is sometimes difficult to arrange, but outside country will be even more complicated, and that has to do with labor laws, etc., salary, all those kind of things. So it's more country specific. But I suppose the big challenge for multilingual hubs is finding enough quality candidates to meet the increased demand for multilingual agents. Some languages like Dutch, German, Nordic languages, they've always been a challenge to recruit, as they have great opportunities in their home countries. They have good opportunities, good conditions, good pay. And one of the selling points always for the multilingual hubs was the social aspect, working in an international environment, having colleagues from all over the world working alongside you. And that social aspect completely disappeared last year. So while the selling point before was, come to sunny Europe, work with your colleagues from all over the world, enjoy our nightlife, company events, that was suddenly taken away. And it's difficult to sell, come to sunny Europe and stay in your apartments all day and work from there. So that's definitely been a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine that if you're looking at the weather in Denmark and then you see a job advertised by the beach in Greece, then that's a big part of the attraction.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
We've seen in the media a lot recently this idea of the Great Resignation. I mean, I think that this has focused a lot on the US, but I see a lot of this same discussion taking place in the UK and Europe now as well. Does this impact on BPO as well? I mean, are candidates expecting more, or are they, especially flexibility, maybe not just salary, but things around working hours and the ability to work from home sometimes? I mean, are people demanding more, and is there a sort of Great Resignation effect as well?
Mm-hmm. I suppose during the pandemic, there was probably less attrition among multilingual agents in the BPO industry. They were able to stay longer in their roles. They were kind of, inclined to stick to what they had. I would say, in general, there was less attrition during the start of the pandemic. But of course, there's always attrition in the BPO industry, but the greater demand for multilingual staff at the moment is not because of agents leaving the BPO space, but it's due to a genuine increase in headcount required. Now, this might be different if we split this up in multilingual centers and national centers where they're just covering one language, but our focus would be mainly on the multilingual environments, and I've not seen a Great Resignation having a noticeable effect in the multilingual BPO. Now, saying that, you're right, candidates know they're in demand, especially multilingual candidates. They know what they're worth, and their position has definitely improved in line with their demand. So we've seen some salaries and commission structures that have improved in favor of candidates, as well as relocation packages that have been expanded to include signing on bonuses, retention bonuses, free housing. But on the other hand, I will also see clients that are not backing down. They will not relax strict criteria such as certain experience that's required for the role, or the native level language skills that's needed, or they will not offer the permanent work from home roles that many candidates are looking for now.
Yeah, that's interesting. That one of the big trends in the American media doesn't seem to be actually going global then.
Mm-hmm. Not at a big rate anyway. It's maybe also it's also the level of maybe the agent level. If we're looking at customer service staff, they may be not as inclined to quickly leave as maybe maybe the higher, executive level or specific roles in the BPO industry. But maybe it's happening in the US. If you're referring to the Great Resignation.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask then also about Brexit, and has that changed any of the dynamics across Europe? I mean, particularly to do with the recruitment of English speakers, I guess.
Hmm. I think we can really see a Brexit effect on multilingual centres in the UK, where they have to be flexible with offering permanent work from home options within the UK, as they no longer can relocate candidates easily because of Brexit. They're working with a limited pool of existing candidates who need to have the right to work in the UK, as visa support is mostly not available because of the typical salaries paid. So candidates need to already have the right to work, like the settled or pre-settled status in the UK. So we're looking at of the already limited pool of multilingual candidates that we're working with. Brexit has made it even more limited. And then I suppose you can also look on the other side, looking at the multilingual centers in mainland Europe, where when they look for native level English speakers, which they previously could have tapped in to a population of, the UK and Ireland with a combined population of around, 70 million. The pool has, reduced dramatically, as they now can only look at Ireland, and that has a population of around 5 million, as for the same reason, visa support would not be offered for UK citizens for those types of roles.
Well, I mean, I guess that everything is a bit uncertain right now with COVID. There's a lot of vaccinations that have been undertaken in Europe, but we're not seeing a complete collapse in the case numbers yet, certainly in the UK. So do you think that this will affect recruitment, or are there any other sort of trends or expectations that you have for next year then?
Well, COVID, it's definitely an uncertain uncertainty. It was, beginning of the pandemic, it was uncertain. It's true, when the vaccination program started, it was still uncertain, and it's definitely uncertain now when we're going into a difficult winter, and we're not sure what to expect. So while the situation with the pandemic has improved in many respects, there are a lot of people vaccinated. We have the digital COVID certificates that are available. Travel restrictions have eased most of the time. Work from home is encouraged. But the uncertainty remains, and that does not encourage, people to relocate specifically, which is often required for multilingual roles in particular. But I suppose, beside the uncertainty, I think we are looking at a continued increase in demand for multilingual staff from an already tight candidate pool. So for recruitment companies like Talingual, as well as for the BPO employers, it requires an even more active approach in sourcing candidates and make it more attractive for them. In general, I'm expecting that the permanent hybrid or the fully remote roles will be more and more available in 2022. And I think, overall, I think next year will be a fantastic year where lots of exciting opportunities will happen for our candidates and clients, and also for us here at Talingual, because we start 2022 by celebrating our 5th anniversary. So that's very exciting.
Well, that's a great point to end on. Congratulations for the anniversary. And also just the positive news that, recruitment in BPO is certainly had an uncertain period, but certainly seems to be bouncing back now.
Absolutely, yes. And we're delighted that it's the case.
Thanks for downloading the CX Files podcast. If you have a moment, please give us a star rating or review on your favourite podcast provider, because this really helps other people to find the podcast. If you have any suggestions for future guests, or ideas, people or topics, then please just find myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan on LinkedIn and send a suggestion.